So we're back in Vectorworks now. This is the example drawing that I've already created. You will note that beside my cursor is a little icon of a mouse that will show sort of left and right mouse clicking, as you can see there. Also, when I press on the keyboard, which I'll do for certain functions, this should appear at the bottom. So you should be able to see what keys are pressed and be able to follow along. So the first thing we want to do when you open up Vectorworks, you will probably get a splash screen. The splash screen will probably look something like this. Any previous or recent files you'll have open will appear in the center here. And there are also other things and templates amongst it. You can open by pressing the open document there. So if your file doesn't appear in recent files, you can press open and search your computer, just as you would anywhere that you would be saving your drawings. You can open up there. What we're going to do is we're going to start a blank document. I'm going to click blank document, and it will just open up like this. Now there's a couple of things that you want to do to begin with. So I'm just going to get rid of this drawing. Save that. Now what we have here is our what we call a design layer, and this design layer is where we'll do the drawing. When you first start off, if you've not customized your workspace, it will probably look a bit like this. If you see across the top and it says something like AEC, which stands for Architecture, Engineering, Construction, then Entertainment and Tools, this is the designer workspace. And it will have sort of weird things like this plant tool, things like that on it. So what we want to do, just for ease and for consistency, is change our workspace. And workspace just changes what all of your window options do in all of these sort of like pop-up across the top ribbon and everything here. Now, more advanced users can set up their own one, so you can define your own workspace, but we're just going to flip to the one that is dedicated for the entertainment industry because it contains most of the tools that we'll want to use. And to do that, we're going to go up to Tools. We'll jump down to Workspaces at the bottom. You can see here this little dot there means that we're in Design Suite. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change the Spotlight. Now, Spotlight is the entertainment industry sort of standard workspace, and it's usually got everything we need to do. Unless you're a power user, want more things in there, we can just quickly click on that. And it will reform all of this and go a little bit weird. And my resource manager has gone to the other screen. But there it is here. Let's put it up there. So now you'll see that the tool sets have changed somewhat. And we can see that there's slightly different tool sets. And these are way more relevant for our industry. You probably won't be wanting to put. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to showcase because we don't need that. You can resize these windows. You can even drag the attribute windows out. I tend to do that to give me a bit more space down the side. And this little pin icon here, this auto hide, if I click that, so it's like that, that'll disappear. And the attributes is just like when you're drawing what color it's in, whether it's a solid shape and so on. I'm just going to drag that off to the side. Hopefully you know these things anyway. That's that set up. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my pages. Now often we'll kind of work in sort of A3. Most printers, particularly in the RCS, will work in A3. So I'm going to change the sort of size and basically the page setup. So I go into File and Page Setup just here. You'll get the page setup window. And there's a couple of things we want to do in here. In the printable area, that's the area you can print to. I click Choose Size Unavailable in Printer Setup. That just means that I can force it into a size. I click down here. I'm going to go ISO A3. What I'm going to do is I'm going to untick Show Page Boundary, and this thing here is the page boundary. And I personally find that a little bit distracting when I'm drawing. I don't really want to see the page boundary. I'm going to be drawing whatever I want to draw. I'm just going to click that, untick it, and click it off. And then you'll get a mask grid. No matter where you zoom out, and the grid's not contained to a page size. That's great. So that is what we want to start setting up before we start drawing, before we start doing anything else. Now that I've done that, in a new drawing, if we look at our classes, so in the navigation, look at our classes, when it first opens up, we'll always get dimension and we'll always get none. Those are default classes. And we can create our own classes, whatever we want to create. In design layers here, it will automatically create design layer 1 and sort of tick you in that. So a little tick here means that you're active in either the class or the design layer. A little reminder, as a little refresher, design layer is kind of very customizable, so it's part of your organization, and it's really important to organize things logically, but that's a very personal preference a lot of the time. For example, in the PTM side of things, we'll have things like a lighting layer, sound layer, video layer, venue layer with all of the ground plans of the venue and so forth. And that means we can quickly turn things on and off that we want to see or don't want to see, and it makes it a lot easier to create sheet layers that make sense. Being able to automatically. If you get this, it will consistently check for updates. Quite handy that that's come up. Anything, the little pop-ups here, you get a lot of information pop-ups, particularly when you first start. If you've not opened it in a while or you've done an update to it, you can click Don't Show This Dialog Again. And I click No, I want to tell it when to do updates. Thank you very much. Where was I? Yes. Yes, so design layers are often where things are in the world in your design. A class is what it is. So it's just a subcategory in many respects. So, for example, in terms of lighting, you might have a lighting layer that you can turn on and off that will be all the lights in your drawing. But within the classes, you might have something like a spotlight or a floodlight, and you can turn those on and off individually. So you can put objects or sections of your drawing within different classes, and you can turn them on and off separately. So each design layer have different classes activated, and it's a way of organizing your drawing. What we're going to do is we're going to create a sketch and a sketch design layer. And we'll also create a set class with arch flat as a subcategory, and also a set design layer. So that's just a practice, creating design layers and classes. Now you can do this in multiple ways, just like most things in Vectorworks. You can do things in lots of different ways. If we want to go deep into our organization, you can go to Tools and Organization, and this is where all the options for your navigation design layer and things will come up. So the organization panel will come up here. So you have your classes, design layers. Don't worry necessarily too much about these for now. But in here, you can create a new, you can change all sorts of attributes on them so that when you start drawing in this class, you can change the pen and the fill. So in your sketch, you could have all your lines will look blue, saying you know it's in the sketch. Quite handy for setting up template where you're always going to want your center line to be dashed and red, that kind of thing. Or if you want certain objects to come in blue, say, with a blue fill, that you know that it's a certain object. We're just going to ignore that for now because most of the time, the easiest thing to do is you can do it in this navigation panel. So for this design layer here, because it's coming with design layer 1, I can actually just call this sketch for now. If I click on this and click again, I can then go into my design layer and say, oh, listen. sketch. So, don't know why my key presses have disappeared, but they have. How wonderful. Now, if I want to create a new design, so I want to create my set design layer, where I draw all of my set, what I can do is I can just right click in here, and an option will come up to say new, and I can click new. And from there, I can just create a new design layer. I tend not to worry about any of these. You can edit the properties after creation on a lot of things. Again, slightly more advanced if you want to go into all the options. If you're just doing some quick drawings, not to worry about that too much. Probably get in trouble for saying that, but hey. I'm just going to call this new design layer set. I'm going to hit OK, and you can see that that's appeared here. Now the numbers next to this, it's 1 and the 2 here, that's the stacking order. So if you imagine these design layers as sheets of paper on top of each other. So when you start drawing in set, it will draw over the top of anything you've drawn on sketch. And you can tell you're active in that because there's a little tick next to set, and also up here next to layer options here, saying you're in set. We're going to do the same for the classes. I'm going to go into class. Now you could sketch in this non class here. It's a sort of limbo class. But a lot of other things that Vectorworks uses natively will often come into that sort of class when you start bringing in things from the resource manager. So instead, I'm going to right click on this as well, in that panel there, click new, and I'm going to create a sketch. Now you could call it sketch, you could call it draft, you could call it whatever you want to call it. It's basically your scribbling layer. I'm going to hit OK on this. And again, I want to create my set. But you may have lots of different set pieces. What we're going to do is we're going to create an overall set class, but with little subcategories that you can use to define other elements that belong to that. That's what you can do with Vectorworks. If I right click here and I click new, I'm going to call this set. And then I'm going to do a dash, and I'm going to call it arch flat. And then I'm going to hit OK. So what you can see here is we have an overall set class, and then we have an arch flat. Now, if I created a new class, I could type in, say, add something that was a dome flat or rostra or set truck. I could right click on this, or I could right click and click new, type in set dash, and then the name like set truck, and set truck would appear below this. I could probably just demonstrate by going new. I type set, it has to be exactly the same as before, dash, and then call this truck spell. Okay. You see that's appeared there. It's just ways of classifying things in and out. One thing to note on layer options when we start to draw, the options here and the options here, these allow you to either see, snap, and give you various functions. When I click down here and show active only, and that will only show layer here that has the tick next to it. It will grey others, so everything other than the one that's active grey. Grey snap means that it will grey the other layers out. It will also snap to edges of things, so you can draw things like that. Show others, again, we'll just show others without greying them out, so they'll be completely solid. Show snap others, again, that will allow you to show everything not greyed out or looking slightly transparent, and you can snap to edges. And show snap modify others will allow you to show the others, snap to things, but also click on them and edit them. Now for design layers, if you had full venue ground plan and you're in show snap modify others, you could start moving walls of your venue around. You don't necessarily want to do that, So I tend to create a show snap others, and that option's there. But in class options, I tend to say show snap modify others. I'll leave that in its default because you don't want to be, you want to be able to move and modify different class elements, usually like different objects within that design layer. So if you were in show snap, it would really limit your ability to click on things and edit things. That's just a couple of tips there. So if you go ahead and create these, you do not need to create the truck one. That was just for an example. But if you create a set layer and a sketch layer and create a sketch class and a set class with arch flat as its sub, or its child to its parent, I guess, whatever works in your brain. If you go ahead and do that, and then we'll start drawing.